arrived in New Zealand 5 years ago to study here at Unitec. So it was 2006, and then in 2007 I did the majority of my master's research in the field study, and then kind of handed in the end of 2007 and graduated 2008 officially. And yeah, I'm still here because I liked it so much, the experience here at Unitec, and found a great job with the degree at Auckland Council and doing the international relations work. And what Avalia kindly asked me to say a few words about, well, 20 to 30 minutes, about my research I did for the master's thesis. And I'm very grateful to be here today. And I hope I can give you a bit, share my experience. If you have any questions throughout my presentation, please ask them. But there will probably also be plenty of time in the end of the presentation to ask some more specific questions. But if something is completely unclear, please interrupt me. As I said, the majority of my work has been done in 2007, so it has been a little while. So some of the things may escape me, or I looked at them so often that for me they're pretty clear and crispy clear, but not for someone else. And so now I hope this works. No, it doesn't.
This.
Yeah, that's working. Great. So just to give you an overview, so my main focus is really talking about the research methods applied in my research, but to give you a bit of a setting and a bit of a general understanding, I thought it would be quite good to tell you about my research purpose and the research questions, and a bit of the theoretical concept, and also later on give you some of the key findings, but the majority of the time I will really speak about the actual research methods, so to be relevant to the course here. So, the research purpose. So I found the research question actually one of the main challenges of the whole research question, finalizing and identifying that one. So it was quite a long process to get to that formulation of one single question. It always seems so easy when you read other people's researches to find something, but it actually took me quite some time and a lot of consultation with Valia and my other supervisor to come to that one. So the final research question was, what are the crucial factors influencing the implementation of the participatory development communication model within the context of development projects initiated by the International Development Organization Papua New Guinea? A very long and wordy question, as you see. And what helped tremendously was having some sub-questions to really guide my research and making it a bit easier to get to the result. And so I had those four sub-questions. How is the participatory development communication model employed in the development initiatives under investigation? What are the issues and factors impacting the PDC implementation process? How are these factors interrelated? And what are the underlying themes influencing the implementation of this model? And as a bit of background, at the time of looking for my research project, I had a part-time job at World Vision. So it's an international development organization, and they have projects throughout the world. And through meeting Valia and with her personal background from Papua New Guinea, and figuring out that World Vision had development projects in Papua New Guinea, that fitted quite nicely to look into this, and it really helped me accessing data that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to access through the part-time job here in Auckland, and facilitating this introduction, because it is, as you can imagine, a bit difficult to find an organization overseas who is willing to share insights with some student in Auckland. And it was very helpful having this link through the Auckland company here, helping me facilitate. Even with that connection, it was a bit challenging, because Papua New Guineans just operate a bit differently. And so things like just before, a week before, 1 or 2 weeks before I was due to visit Papua New Guinea for my research project, there were so many details not finalized, and I was not 100% sure if they were really expecting me, or if because I had been so many staff changes and things. So it was tremendously helpful to have also the World Vision New Zealand support. So that was not too fast. Oh no, sorry. Of course, my research had a theoretical model where it was based on. So I looked at through the literature review, I looked at various models of participatory development communication or wider development communication sector. The main model, I don't want to go into the details now of this model as such, but the one from Birgit from 2004, a 10-step model, was the main model I based my research on, especially for my first sub-question, to where I was looking into how the PDC level is employed in the particular projects I was looking at. And I also, through the extensive literature review, I think this thing is just working on and off. Maybe I just talked a bit. So also we're here, up here. That works better. So as I wanted to look at the crucial factors influencing the implementation process, I obviously had to look at the literature as well, what the factors were there, talked and discussed by other authors. And the literature review revealed about 12 factors. Well, that was how I grouped them together. So I grouped them into contextual factors, project-related factors, and people-related factors. And that was really the base for me, the general base to form my understanding which type of factors and areas I have to look out for. Again, here I don't want to go into too much details, but obviously there is a social and cultural context that influence how a communication model can be applied in a development project. The power structure of the region or the area. The religious context is in many, especially in the Pacific area, also as very important. Other external influences, yeah, and then so on. There's like a number of factors, as you can see. So, and well, so what you may have spotted in the beginning, so my research was an ethnographic study. Which is a bit different than the general quantitative or some of the qualitative studies. But I found it particularly helpful, and I had a lot of reasons to choose this approach. So choosing between qualitative and quantitative, I chose qualitative for generally it is, a lot of authors agree it is more suitable for investigative development communication, especially Servais is one of the leading figures having that point of view. It is also very relevant when undertaking a process-oriented research, and my question was really focusing on the process of implementing the PDC model, not so much on the outcome. So the qualitative research approach was really helpful in this. It's also, the qualitative research seemed to be very, it's very, sorry. The qualitative research is very reactive or reflects any, was very good for any new emerging issues. So it's more if you don't have a set mindset before starting the research. The qualitative research methods just enable you a bit more, letting you be guided by the research, not so much the other way around that you have already a set model that you want to prove or disregard, right? So that seemed to be more relevant because I was, I didn't have a mindset as such before I started with the research. It's also the variety of the research methods that are able to be applied in a qualitative research project. They seem to be more appropriate to capture the variety of views, especially given that quite obviously I came with my Western mindset in this research project. And I talked to the majority of stakeholders in Papua New Guinea who are locals, so obviously that it's better for the interaction and for also clarifying any issues that or misunderstandings, either linguistical nature or just from coming from two different cultures. It just seemed to be more relevant having this open channel and actual interaction. Whereas like a quantitative research approach doesn't allow you this because it's very formal, it's strict and a bit more distant. And out of the qualitative research methods, I chose an ethnographic study, which is just more of a, how can I say, not an extreme, but like a very advanced or detailed, in-depth approach within the qualitative research methods. And it really enabled me to understand the process and the society more from the inside, not so much from the outside. I quite like this quote here from Goldwell and Hastler, where they say the ethnographic study focuses on people as meaning makers around an emphasis on understanding how people interpret their world, and the need to understand the particular cultural worlds in which people live, in which they both construct and utilize. So it's more about really looking at the people and how they interpret their life, which really seem to be relevant again under the special situation limitation that I have been putting myself in a foreign world to me. So it was just seemed to be better to really immerse myself a bit more in the actual project set up in the community there. Just from a more like historical point of view, the term ethnography derives from the period of the European expansion and was more referring to the observation of exotic peoples. So it's even therefore it's originally closely related to the confrontation of different cultures, and that makes it especially relevant for development studies approaches in general. And there are some criticism about ethnographic studies, especially since they're quite time-consuming and quite often not immediately policy relevant, because there are no figures and facts that are easily presentable coming out of a research like this. However, a lot of non-governmental organizations and development organizations increasingly use a more qualitative methods and ethnographic approach just for the value coming out of it. And what I mentioned before, it's just really this close interaction between me and as a Westerner and the research, which just enabled to overcome a few of the limitations by more qualitative or one of the qualitative approaches that is not so interactive. So I had three main data sources, and I did data triangulation to prove and to validate my findings. And so my three main sources are participant observation, interviews, and documents. And participant observation means that I really negotiated a way into the setting and spent most of the time in the setting, but I participated in a lot of the activities, but not all of the activities. So I was not a complete observer, which would be the contrast. So the organization, World Vision, they knew that I'm coming there. They introduced me to all their project managers as I'm a researcher and what I'm doing. And then if I later on for the interviews and so, it was always that there was information provided, there was a consent signed by the participants. So I tried to be as much as possible more like an employee, but it was clear that I'm just there for a temporary time of about 5 weeks, and that I will do a research project, and that this is my purpose here. And the World Vision staff in Papua New Guinea was very open and really gave me the opportunity to attend many internal meetings with stakeholders, took me out to many of the project sites, and gave me the opportunity to really talk to the beneficiaries of the project, of team leaders or project leaders on the site. And so I really followed the daily routine of the employees and made my observations. And the participant observation part, I didn't audio tape it. I had a notebook and took heaps of notes. I was really writing so much, and it was a mixture of all my observations and statements that I heard people talking, so to capture as much as possible the actual original quoting, and or any other feelings or funny observations I made. And I completed my notes during the day, and then at night time when I was basically off, I completed and added more as much as possible. A few of those notes at the beginning seem completely irrelevant. So I was warned that this will be the way, because it's hard to know in the beginning what you're really looking for. So some of them there was a huge amount of data later on that I had completely to disregard, which was very interesting but not at all relevant to the actual research purpose. But it's just in the time of 5 weeks, you can accumulate a lot of notes, obviously. And also through the participant observation, I will tell you later on the projects I'm also focused on. So I focused on 4 projects out of the numerous projects World Vision is working on in Papua.